now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Of the day with
big news. I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Darren's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Morning, Sandy.
Morning.
You there? Good morning. Hello. We see you, but we can't hear you.
Oh, no.
Today is Aaron's birthday.
That's why we look like this.
Yeah. Sandy is working on her microphone. I can see her.
Sorry, Miss Muted.
Oh no, I do that.
The problem is I've got like certain two options to mute myself.
Yeah,
and the mic was fine. That's why I was looking like, it's okay, but then the other one was muted.
It's technology.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. You like our hats?
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah,
16 all over again.
Oh, wouldn't that be lovely to go back in time when your parents took care of you?
I have to show you my wife made.
Instead of you taking care of two toddlers.
My wife got up early this morning.
Oh, these were
Sandy.
delicious.
Oh, what did you make?
My wife got up early and baked banana. Whoops.
Oh, listen, you better eat that.
Yeah. Oh, he will.
These
I already ate too.
These banana nut muffins or banana chocolate muffins.
Yeah.
And we started with 10. There's only 2 left.
Yeah, no, they're delicious.
Here, have a bite.
She got up and Jamie made those this morning.
Oh, those look awesome.
What a legend. Thank you so much.
Still warm.
I can't believe they are because it is ice cold in the studio. I leave and I have to I sit in my car with no AC and it's like a nice sauna.
Yeah.
That's how I warm up.
Oh,
yeah.
And this is for you as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Happy birthday to you.
So what's happening? Got anything for us this morning?
Weather.
News.
So
What's
we
the
are
news?
watching some tropical waves
Saw that.
going into the weekend. So it is hurricane season.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
So
see
we
the ones that are
certainly-
down by the Windward Islands or Lesser Antilles?
It's moving, so it's tracking a little bit closer to us per the 2 a.m. update. So
Yeah.
the path has shifted a little bit
Yeah.
over to make us more in its direct.
We're in
path.
the cone of
Still
uncertainty.
early days, but so we're gonna keep an eye on that weather development, just in case.
That's a
Yeah.
little ways out there, though.
But I mean,
Yeah, I mean by the weekend, I
Yeah,
think
but-
we
this is something that shows you need to be prepared for hurricane season
For sure.
at the beginning, not just, when it rolls around like September, October gets, a little,
Mm-hmm.
and August sometimes. But yeah, you got to be prepared from day one. This is kind of crazy to look at the two storms that are coming this way.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So again, the the experts are still predicting that it's going to be a very active hurricane season. Every year they say that, and I'm thinking, how much more active can it get?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
last year,
we went through all of the names last
I
year.
know we were into the Greek alphabet and all sorts of craziness last year. So
Yeah. They decided to drop the Greek alphabet, though, and add extra names this year. So
really,
Go back through A, B, or okay, so
They
they just
started A
start
again.
back again.
Mhm.
Mhm.
that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we shall see. But we've already had the first hurricane of 2020. Enrique
Mhm.
was out there a couple days ago.
Yeah, we're already in the D's.
Yeah.
Storm Danny
Yep.
was in the Carolinas just a couple days ago.
Mhm.
What else you got?
So we're going to be talking this morning about a little bit of a quarantine. It was sort of a breach, but it's a peculiar one. So we're going to be delving into that. So there's certain categories of people, Blake and Aaron, they're allowed into the country that don't actually have to quarantine. And I think a lot of people forget this.
Wait, don't have to quarantine
There's
at
supposed
all?
to be like service providers, like people come in to work on like a power line with CUC or whatever.
This is true if they work in a strict bubble.
That's supposed to be the case, but this
Right.
person came in and didn't work in a strict bubble. So now, because of that, there are 5 CIAA employees who are in quarantine.
Oh, wow.
And this happened last week.
What was the
this
work
is-
supposed to be for? Do we know?
Airport. So he was
Oh,
supposed to
airport
go
work.
and check a lot of the airport equipment, apparently.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
there are
required
things on
him
the
going
island.
in the plane, so they probably thought, how much harm can it be?
Yeah.
But it was 2 inspectors, male and female, and they came in contact with a lot of people. So 5 people.
We know that because we're a radio station, and
Yeah.
there's technology that we need specialists for that don't live on island for those type of things, transmitters,
Yeah.
Antennas, all that kind of stuff. So
Turn the board live.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, turning the microphone on.
Yeah.
Having it on mute. But
It's the simple things that usually cripple all of us.
you can have specialists come in, but let's just say your specialist could come in and work strictly at a tower site where they don't come in contact with anybody else.
Right.
And then they're at night they're in their quarantine, and then during the day they're working specifically by themselves in an area. But that's not this is what you're saying.
Right. So they had certain things that they were supposed to do. The most important thing actually is that they were supposed to get a negative PCR test before actually heading to the airport, and they didn't do that. So they took the test but didn't get the results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it said take the test. Maybe that was the rule.
Did it say?
We
Did
took
it
the
say?
test.
No, it said that.
Didn't
No,
take
it
the
said they
result.
needed to get the results first. So there's the ball got dropped kind of in different ways.
Yeah. Is that
And it's just unfortunate now that it's like local employees who have to be penalized, because these guys were not penalized. They were like,
but
the next day.
But is it their fault, or is it the person that's handling them? Because do they know that they
I
need to
think
do
it's
all
a little bit of both, because they were informed that they needed to wait for this negative test. And then there seems to have been some administrative balls that were also dropped, which is a little bit concerning. As we edge closer to reopening, we got to make sure that we kind of plug those issues, because you can see as we get more and more people, if it's being dropped now, what's going to happen when we start to have more people on our shores.
Yeah, totally. Well, we'll get that story and more on CMR, which kicks off right now with Sandy Hill on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. You guys have a great day. Aaron, happy birthday.
Thanks, Sandy.
Hey, see you later.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.
All right, coming up on.
All right, folks, that is Blake and Aaron on KISS 106.1. Happy birthday to Aaron. We'll have to remember that. Her birthday falls right after the CMR anniversary, so that's kind of an easy day to remember. Good morning, Miss Anne Marie. How are you? Good morning to Stephen. Good morning, Dana. Kay is here. Good morning, Miss Morna. Dave McLaughlin is joining us. Hi, Dave. Why is your picture sideways? Huh, that's interesting. I've never seen a sideways picture like that before. How did you do that? That's pretty cool. Morning to Olivia. Miss Kay is here. Says happy birthday to Aaron. Corrine sending some birthday greetings. The beautiful Indira. Miss Alice is here. Elizabeth. Good morning, Brandon. How you doing? Louis. Another rainy day in the D. 73 degrees Fahrenheit and calm. Barometric pressure 30.06, humidity 86%. I feel like you're the weatherman this morning. Good morning, Maria. How are you? Michael is here. Larry, good morning. Joining us from New York. 96 already in New York. Are you kidding me? Wow. And it feels like 106 degrees. Woo! That's a hot summer for you. Jonathan joining us from St. Martin. Marshall from North Carolina. Evelyn from right here in Newlands. Valda, good morning, Miss Valda. Says, what a hot mess. More quarantine blunders. How can we feel safe? Well, we're going to talk about that. So there is a weather system that we're watching. We're actually about to put up another story. This tropical wave has a good chance of developing into something over the weekend. So the National Hurricane Center is saying that it could develop and form over the next, probably by Friday, I think they said. Today is Wednesday, right? So interest in the area should closely monitor this storm because it's going to be moving through the region by Friday. So, of course, we are interested. It's a little bit early still, but as you guys know, it doesn't take much for a storm to quickly develop and turn into something. And so we've always got to be on our P's and Q's. Louis has an extra mug in Detroit. I had some mugs shipped out to people in the US. So Louis said he got an extra one. So if anyone is in the US and they'd like him to send that mug to them, he's got an extra one that he can send to you. So Larry has one already, Louis. He got one the last time. So yes, we're going to be keeping an eye on this development. I think I forgot to send out my notification to the WhatsApp people. Some mornings I legit forget to do this. So give me 1 second. There's always a little feedback when I do it. So 1 second. Yeah. So how are you guys doing? Happy Wednesday. How's everybody feeling? I feel like some people, even in the WhatsApp group, like they don't remember to tune in unless I send out my little notification. So as I always say in life, consistency is quite important. I try to be consistent. So give me a second. I always send them both the YouTube and the Facebook link just in case. So Then you hear the feedback when I open that window. Awesome. So let me see here. There we go. So buenos dias. Good morning. So it looks like we might be getting some rain again today. Another rainy day. That's my unofficial forecast looking outside. So we shall keep an eye on general weather conditions here, but certainly we need to keep an eye on what is happening, even just with the regular rain, because it doesn't take much to get flooded out in Cayman. So we're always a bit concerned when that happens. So yes, we are all keeping a keen eye on what is happening with the weather. So let me see. Lots of summer camps coming up, by the way. So if you've got kids, as a parent now, I know the struggle. Whew, listen, managing the lives of children, I now see why, if you can afford to do it, a lot of parents choose to have one parent stay home. Sometimes it's not even really a question of being able to afford to do it. You just make the necessary sacrifice, like you sacrifice something else. So because the scheduling of your children and their activities and all that fun stuff can get to be a little bit weighty on your schedule for sure. So, you always have to have plans, because as they get older, when they're younger, like when they're in daycare and stuff, it's super easy because they'll keep them all year round for you. But when they start to get older, you've got, there's no more after school for like the older kids, or you have got to have summer camp plans. So some of the private schools will continue. They do a continuation of the schedule basically in terms of the hours, but it is summer camp-ish. So we, always try to take advantage of those options, just because, again, your schedule doesn't really permit you to spend the whole day with your kids when they're out of school. But isn't that crazy? Isn't it crazy that we actually need a summer camp to have something productive for our kids to do? And there are a lot of summer camp programs out there, but I think choosing ones that are, first of all, a safe environment for your child. We talked about the safeguarding last week with Carolina, the safeguarding considerations that all parents should be concerned about is extremely, extremely important. That's your first priority, is to make sure that your children are safe in all sense of the word. So there's that consideration. And then you also want it to be a program that perhaps they're going to learn something from and actually enjoy as well. So, make sure that you look at what the programs are offering, what the curriculum is offering, after you've determined that they're safe, but they also have certain protocols in place that they are following. And soon we're going to be talking about, I had a parent contact me this week about a situation that happened with her daughter that is horrific at one of her government schools. We're trying to conduct an interview with the mother, but we're giving her some time to think about it. And the nature of the allegation is a sexual assault. So we have to protect her identity, to protect the child's identity at all costs. And when she was telling me what transpired, I couldn't believe how irresponsible school administrators and adults can be. It blows my mind when an adult puts a child in harm's way and doesn't even know that they're doing it. That's the saddest part. So that certainly tells me that, they're simply not paying attention, or they don't know, or they don't understand certain safeguarding principles. And they're certainly not adhering to those if they do know them. And I don't know what's worse, not knowing, or knowing and not doing what you're supposed to be doing because of being complacent, lazy. I don't know. I really do not understand it. And I can tell you that as a parent, if I was ever put in that situation, my God, I don't even know how I would react. But I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be pretty. That you can guarantee. Good morning, Miss Darlene, joining us from the UK. Happy Hump Day. I feel like we're a bit further in this week than we actually are. It is only Wednesday, but I feel like it's like a Thursday or Friday almost. I don't know why. Miss Shirley is joining us from Atlanta. Miss Shirley, do you need a mug? Because Louis in Detroit, and he can send you an extra one. Miss Marjorie, we're actually waiting on our order to get here. So it's good that the ones that we requested for people in the States have arrived, because that lets us know that the order had actually shipped, which was good. So I did get a tracking number with FedEx from our shipper a couple days ago. So they have it projected to reach Cayman by next week. Now, hopefully, let me just check with them. This is probably a good time to do that. Because, the biggest issue is not even shipping, because sometimes I get things here like that, but it's always, invoices. So let me just check and make sure that they placed. And then the other issue is apparently customs does not like, Donovan needs one. So Louis, actually Donovan needs a mug. I thought I had requested yours, Donovan. I wonder if they sent the extra one to, because Mr. Hero Blair got his, Louis got his. So I wonder if they forgot to send yours, Donovan, because we did request yours as well. Just checking my emails here. Let me double check with them, Donovan. Let me see. If not, we'll get the. Let me just double check. If not, we will get I'm trying to see where you sent the address. Donovan, let me see. Did you send it from your other phone? Do me a favor and just message me the address again. Let me just double check it, because I'm sure I sent them your request, but if I haven't, then maybe that's a good compromise that Louis can send you that one. So that would work out perfectly. Yes, so Miss Marjorie, they should be en route to Cayman as well. And I'm just checking to ensure that the invoice has been included, because like I said, normally that will be what will hold up a package as it is slated to come. So one parent just messaged to talk about the cost of summer camps. Listen, I have just resigned myself to the fact that it's like the cost of, if your kids are in private school, just budget for it being a regular month or two over the summer break for the cost, because it really isn't any difference for the summer programs and stuff. It's like a full-time tuition basically for the summer. Honey, all I can tell you is You work to pay your bills, and you work to get your kids a good education, and the sacrifice is that financially everything is going up, and school fees are, after a mortgage, probably your second biggest monthly commitment. And some schools are really expensive. So we have a scheduled delivery for next week, Wednesday. Ooh, it's coming in 8 pieces. Is it that many boxes? Yeah, I think last time it was a few boxes as well. But I must tell you, last time they came, not a single mug was broken. So they were handled very well, which is good. And I mean, it's only coming from St. Petersburg, Florida. So I don't know why it would be taking so long. According to this, the ship date was the 28th. Oh, well, that's just 2 days ago. That wasn't all that long ago. So yeah, I mean, they have to actually make the mugs and do the imprinting and all that kind of stuff first. So it looks like they just literally shipped. I think they shipped the ones in the US, within the continental US first, and then they sent us our shipment. All right, Donovan, I'm going to give your address to Louis, and then I will have Louis send you that mug that he has. And then that problem is solved, just like that. Big shout out to everyone watching the program today. So hopefully by next week, Miss Marjorie, the mugs will be here. And I know a lot of people who won prizes last night wanted mugs as well. So they're on the way. Good morning, Miss Sue. Hello, Tommy, joining us in the Bahamas. Good morning, Miss Joy from Texas. Kay wants a mug. Yes. Let me put you, Kay, on the mug list. It's kind of funny saying that, but make sure that, Kay, if I don't have your number and you're not in the WhatsApp group, that you just shoot me a quick message so that when the mug is here, I can WhatsApp you about that. Tommy says, Sandy always feels great while watching your show. It gets my day started. Wow. Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate that. Rosemary is here. Yes, Louis. Carol is here. Talking about the fact that we have to live with COVID. Yes, I agree. But we're going to talk about why this latest. It's not really the latest one because it actually happened last week, but nothing was ever said about it, which is kind of interesting. But we'll delve into where the concerns lie, I think, with this issue. So Ms. Joy says they're bracing for some rain in Texas as well. Good morning, Janet. Keisha's here. Good morning. Richie, I'm sorting out the prizes. So today's a little bit of a hectic day for me, in the sense that my daughter has a school concert this morning. So I've got that in my calendar. I was just telling you guys that sometimes, if you could be a full-time mom or dad, because I think dads should have that luxury of being full-time as well. You just want to do that because you've got calendars full of stuff and play dates and birthday parties and all sorts of stuff for the little ones, taking them to the library, making them read. We had some help. We don't have a nanny or a full-time help or anything like that. But during the election, I saw that we needed some help because of my schedule. And then we had a friend who was in a position to help. Her industry, which is music, obviously has been impacted significantly because of COVID. So she didn't quite have as many engagements. And we thought, oh, great. We have a little keyboard piano at home. So our daughter could, do some fun stuff in the afternoon. Although we discovered that she doesn't really like to stay in, like, she's kind of an outdoor kid. Like, she enjoys going outdoors a lot. And a lot of times, like, she wants to go out in the garden. She wants to visit the dogs next door. Not those dogs. We have some other dogs on the other side next door who are actually very friendly. And she will buy them treats now that Coco is no longer around, and she likes to go out and feed the dogs next door. So yeah, so she really, I mean, it came in so handy to just have someone who could pick her up a couple times a week. And then that freed up my schedule because in the afternoons I could have afternoon meetings and I'm not like watching the clock. Because legit, one time early on in the election, I was at a meeting that ran over and I just wasn't, I totally missed picking up my daughter in time. And next thing I know, my phone was ringing off like 20 times. My husband's like, you forgot my child. I'm like, oh my God. He's not, listen, he's not happy when it comes to anything with his child. You better be on point. So, these things happen. It's just that the time slipped away so quickly sometimes when you're in a meeting. And so, having someone over the last few months who could help with pickups and I could arrange my schedule around the days that she would be available was just wonderful. So, good morning to Emma. Thank you. Emma's asking about some cool insulated water bottles. That's all day promotion, not just early morning. Okay. That's a good idea. Thank you, Louie. Miss Sue says exactly. COVID is going to be here. Yeah. So Jean says it's very expensive if you're middle income to find a camp that's affordable. Yes. And listen, middle income, lower income, you got to be out there hustling like you would not believe. So I totally understand that. But, it is challenging. It's very, very challenging. So what are parents doing for this summer break? I think it's harder when you have kids that are not quite as independent, that need quite a bit more supervision. So they're still young, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hello. For me, it's all the way up to 15. Even then, you don't want kids being unsupervised because they get into all sorts of issues. So Louis says knowing and not doing is the worst, according to biblical principles. I believe that. Hello, Felicia. Good morning, Miss Judy. Megan is here. Carson, good morning. So it was so interesting yesterday, Nathan and Renita, to really hear one of the questions we were asking as people called in for prizes was what people enjoyed about CMR so that we know what's working well. And of course, the areas that need to be improved definitely need to be improved. So the quick delivery of the news was definitely at the top of the list. And then I think a lot of people said the fact that it's the truth, like we're just putting it out there. We're not trying to hide anything from people. And we're not trying to filter the news. We just want people to know exactly what's happening. So Renita says our government schools are discussing with every incident that happens in the school, the common responses, we're launching an investigation. It's BS. Well, they can launch all the investigations in the world, but my concern is these investigations get launched, but then we never hear anything in terms of the outcome of an investigation. Have you recalled an investigation being launched by education and then somebody gets back and says, well, these are the findings. This is what we discovered. This is where we're at. Honestly, I have not heard of a single one. So I don't know about these so-called investigations. It has me terribly concerned because what I do know is that there are things happening in our schools, and I never want people to think that I'm singling out government schools, but the vast majority of complaints that I am getting is about government schools. I'm just saying, this is a fact. This isn't me trying to make John Gray or Clifton Hunter look bad. And I hate to say, if I had to pick an issue with one or the other, it seems like most of the concerns are coming out of John Gray at this particular time. So obviously things happen in private schools. We're not going to shy away from reporting on those things, Renita and anybody else. Again, this is in my mind about protecting your children. So whatever is happening in schools, this is where you send your children in order for them to be safe as much as possible. And so if they're not in a safe environment, then I think that we all need to be concerned about that. And there's a lot, I feel like, that happens in schools that the school administrators, the ministry, the department will never tell people that actually goes on. They're going to claim confidentiality reasons. And the rest of us are just going to sit in a bubble and not know really what's happening. That's an uncomfortable position, I think, as a parent to be in. So going back to the comments from yesterday, Jackie, Andy, Miss Donette. Miss Donette says she needs a mug. So again, just send me your number. I'll put your name on the list. So yes, for sure, we are about exposing everything, I think, that happens so that people have the requisite knowledge and they can make informed decisions. Let's talk about the situation at CIAA. So this is what we know transpired. And it's so funny how we get access to information. Normally, it's not a single source that comes forward. It's multiple people saying different things about a story, and you go, what? This has happened? That's happened? And when I first heard this story, because of the timing of it, I was a little bit confused. I actually thought it was remember there was a transportation confusion, like mix up. And I thought it was that situation. And then one of the parties said, no, this isn't anything that has been publicized. Public health hasn't mentioned it. No one has mentioned it publicly. And I thought, now isn't that something? So there was a pair of inspectors. So apparently, aviation is a very complex area. And I suppose none of us should pretend to be aviation experts because we're really not. We need people to come in, experts from overseas, to sometimes work in equipment, test equipment, and so on. So there are these inspectors that come in that test, I forget what the equipment is called, AFO or something. So they come in and they test equipment for us at the airport. This particular equipment is requires testing, like you have to go in an airplane to test it. So these persons were permitted to come in with no quarantine. They didn't have to exactly quarantine. So let me explain what I mean by this. Megan, let me just double check to see if you're on the Megan. If you're not, I'm adding you now. For the mug list, yes. So in October of last year, we did an article on this, in case you missed it, that basically said there are people who are permitted to come into Cayman who don't have to quarantine, in the sense that they don't have to stay locked up for 2 weeks or whatever, because they're considered like emergency service providers, and these inspectors kind of fall into this category where they're just here to do a specific thing. And they feel like they can put them in a bubble where you don't come in contact with anyone. You have to, do certain things in order for you to get your job done, but you're kind of in and out so quickly. So literally, they were supposed to be here from let me just double check the dates. I think it was the 21st to the 25th. So the 21st was last week, Monday. So they came in on Monday. Of course, they would have to go right to their hotel. So they're not supposed to be out and about. So they're certainly not supposed to be doing that. They're not supposed to be going to a restaurant or seen on the beach or anything. So the time that they're not working, they are still required to remain at their hotel facility. And as far as I know, they are also required to be at a facility that would be approved or pre-approved for quarantining purposes, right? Although they're not going to technically quarantine in the traditional definition of quarantine. So in the instance of this couple, they came in on Monday, the 21st. They're going to be carrying out, like I said, these test inspections at the airport. They were supposed to get, before getting in the plane and going to the airport to conduct this test or series of tests or whatever they're doing, they are supposed to actually receive, so they get tested like everyone else at the airport, and they have to wait to receive a negative PCR test beforehand. So they were told that, and this is what we understand, they were also told that, you have to ensure that you actually wear gloves, wear a mask when you do go to the airport. Although you've gotten this negative test result, we can't take any chance, because remember now, there's always that possibility that you test negative at entry, but you're only testing negative at entry because the amount of COVID is so low in your system at that particular time that a negative PCR test is going to be the result. That's the whole purpose of quarantining, right? Is that it takes time for your system to actually show that you're positive as the infection grows. So in the early days, it's very, very possible to have a negative PCR test. But as you go through the course of, remember, that's why we're doing 14 days, because that was most people, 99% of the people, if they have COVID, are going to have a positive test by day 14. There's the odd case where it could happen even by day 17, and the research has shown that. But we are happy to go with the 99%. So these persons entered the country, did the test. We're told part of their arrangement is that they would actually have to get a negative test first, and then they could go to the airport and conduct their testing. Well, they didn't wait for the negative test. Now, why they didn't wait, I don't know. Did they understand the instructions? How clear was it? Was it in writing? These are all the things that we do not know. One of the reasons that we take the time to explain these sorts of things to people and go through it in sort of painstaking detail is because it is really imperative that we know what went wrong, where did the issue occur, so that we can fix it, right? So it's not just about trying to make people look bad and lambast the system. It's about, okay, if there are some holes in the system, let us ensure that we rectify those so that going forward, we don't have these sorts of issues. So in other words, just a view to doing better, right? So we don't know. I would hope that at this particular time, and how we're handling COVID, that not only do we verbally tell someone something, but we actually put it in writing, make them sign it, that they understand what's going on. Any questions, like you really break it down in the least common denominator kind of way, right? So they didn't adhere to the requirement that they actually get the test results first. So they went to the airport. They unloaded their vehicles. Apparently they had equipment in the vehicles. So they unloaded their vehicles, their vehicle, singular. At some point, they engaged he's not technically a security guard, but I think most of us in layman terms would see him as a security guard. Operations officer or something his title is, right? So he's driving down a little golf cart, and at some point they engage him and assist in them because maybe the equipment was heavy. I'm sure that makes logical sense. And so it was like, okay, no problem. Gave them a lift. The plan was supposed to be you get escorted by someone who knows who you are and what you're there for and that you're in this exemption category, because that's really important. Because when people know you're in the exemption category and you've not gone through quarantine, then they have an opportunity to treat you with extreme caution, because really you're not supposed to be getting in any direct contact with anyone. Alice, I'm putting you in the list as well. Just make sure I have your number, folks. So that was the plan, but that's not what happened. So yes, they, this couple, I'm calling them a couple, but not in a couple, like in a relationship kind of way. They showed up, they get on this golf cart, they get escorted. So now they've compromised him. They go into, and I want to be careful, right? Because when I heard that this was the airport, of course, we were all thinking like the airport main terminal. That's not where this is. So let me show you guys where this actually is. That's this little building that is really easy to miss. I was thinking of every building but this one. You drive by there every day and you think you know all these buildings, and then someone says, no, it's this building. And you have to go and visually take a look. So I had to go there yesterday and look for the building in question. So this is a CIAA building. It's closest to Island Air. So if you're walking to Island Air, you kind of share a pathway to Island Air on the left, and then this building's on the right. So with this building now, they went in there, they go to whoever they have to file like their flight plan with. They file a flight plan, which means that they would have been standing there filling out paperwork, talking to people. The female inspector decides that she needs to go to the bathroom. So she proceeds to go to the restroom during this time. So they were definitely not acting like people who were supposed to stay away from others. Not at all, apparently. And this is a problem. Then they eventually go to the aircraft. So they're literally up in the air. And someone says, this is strange. They are not on the I don't know what the list is, but say it's a manifest, just as a layman's term, right? So someone made the observation that they're not on this list. I think the technical term at the airport, they actually call it something else. But the list that they're referring to is basically a flight list for the day so that you know exactly what planes are going up in the air. CBC knows what planes are coming and going. That's customs. Cayman Airways knows. I mean, there's a bunch of people at the airport who have to know what planes are going to be in our airspace at any time, at any given time. So someone made an observation in this department, which is the Aeronautical Information Services, that this is strange that this flight that they've now just obtained a flight schedule for. So it's called a slot time list. That's the correct name for it. So yeah, they're like, this is a bit strange that this flight isn't on this list. So I'm guessing, you get on that list by making sure that you follow certain steps in advance. And then, maybe in real time you come in and you file your flight plan. Like, you're going to go up, I'm going to do this, do that, whatever. So like I said, this is a world of aviation. So when someone realized that, then people were like, why are they not on this list? This is quite strange. Questions started to be asked. And that is when they realized that, oh, hold on a second. Whoa. They're not on this list because they're not supposed to really be up there without having met these criteria, which they didn't meet. So then they're contacted. Hear how crazy this story gets. They're then contacted by the air traffic control tower and said, you need to come back. So just to be clear, this building here, this general aviation terminal, it's still considered, the airport, but it is, and someone has just mentioned this, and this is a good thing to clarify. So this is the general aviation department. It's for non-commercial flights, things like air ambulance, charters, and so on. So thank you very much, an astute listener wanted to clarify that. So they're contacted and, the tower says, you've got to come back. We got a problem. And please land and stay in the plane. So by this time, bells are going off. People are being alerted. Travel time is like, oh, we got a problem here. So they send a travel time monitor representative, I don't know what they're calling themselves these days, to go out on the tarmac, I guess, as close as they could get, and monitor this plane. And there they are, monitoring the plane, only to discover that when the plane landed, now I don't know what happened with the monitoring, but when the plane landed, the testing inspectors had actually gotten off of the airplane. Hear how crazy this is. The person didn't see them, so I don't know if they got there after they already had gotten off the plane or why they didn't see them, but they never saw them leaving the aircraft. Folks, we're not talking about a jumbo jet here. This is just a small plane. So they left the aircraft. Again, posing and putting other people at continued risk. Well, health services, like I said, they show up and they say to the Aeronautical Information Services employees, that's 4 people, they say, oh my goodness, you guys stay in your office. Don't move, don't go anywhere, don't do anything. We're going to just isolate you until we figure a few things out. The time that those 4 people are sitting there in isolation, then you have a delivery guy that shows up. So here the craziness. You have a delivery guy that shows up to make a delivery to the weather service people, because they're kind of, that's why it has that dome on the top, I think. I think that's related to the weather service. So they share the building and they get a delivery. Now, to get to them, this delivery guy has to walk through the same area that's supposed to now have 4 people in isolation. Now, I don't know about you all, and I don't know what kind of degrees you may have and how fancy your education might be, but let's break it down to the least common denominator. You don't need 1 iota of education or piece of paper. This is just common sense. If someone says that you are to isolate yourself, especially for the purposes of COVID, isolation means nobody coming and nobody going. What, does that make sense? Or am I missing something? So when you isolate, I would think that you would then probably have someone at the entry point of that isolation, and you can't go in there. Oh, you need to make a delivery right now? You're gonna have to wait, because this delivery requires you going into an area that honestly is in isolation at the moment. Okay, well, that didn't happen. So the delivery guy went through, made his delivery. Then there was another individual. Yes. A Cayman Airways employee was then somehow permitted to go into the AIS department, who at this time, those 4 people are supposed to be in isolation. This person goes directly into the department and files a flight plan for a cargo flight. I think the cargo flight was going to Cayman Brac. Again, that is not the definition of isolation. That doesn't make any sense. That's nowhere near isolation. So now you have the 4 people in the AIS department, the operations guy, he's, like I said, operations officer, I think is his official title, all being taken into quarantine. So 5 people in total because of the actions of the 2 inspectors. Now, if you thought this was a little bit baffling, let me assure you that it doesn't stop here, and it gets even more unbelievable. So the decision obviously is taken to put these compromised people in quarantine. Now, ironically, all Caymanian staff, of course, working at CIAA, good for them. Now you're going to put 4 Caymanians in quarantine immediately. So they're like, you have to go to a quarantine hotel right now. Some of them had different situations where they have people at home, so they can't quarantine at home. And imagine this, right? We're not done with what the inspectors did, but imagine this. You're exposed through no fault of your own because they didn't know. And this is the other question that I had. How is it that someone could be coming into your building or even be in the vicinity? This is CIA. This is a government entity. And the staff didn't know that, hey, guys, there's going to be a plane going up at whatever over the next couple of days. These inspectors are here, but they are in the specialty category. So do not get in contact with them. They're not permitted to come in and fill out paperwork in front of you. None of that is allowed. They're supposed to be escorted right to the plane, to the tarmac, get on there, do what they got to do, and immediately leave. So I think there's a couple of things that happened here. The flight inspectors didn't really follow to a T what they were supposed to. Now, like I said, I don't know how or why that happened. If there was a miscommunication, they didn't understand what was going on, I can't speak to that. But obviously they didn't follow the conditions of them not having to quarantine. And then by not notifying other people of what the conditions were or even who they were, you then expose staff. I'm sure, the staff in AIS were just like, oh, hi, you're here to file a thing. Okay, let me help you. They don't know. They have no clue who these people are. They don't know that they haven't been in quarantine for 14 days and been released, or 10 days or whatever. So 5 people then get exposed. Now, we understand that there were actually more people that were exposed. But again, because there's not been an official position taken on this, so the story has gone up, and I'm sure government will now come back and maybe try to make some additional points of clarification. We have sources that are saying that these inspectors were actually in the tower talking to people about what they were doing and what they're going to be checking on and this, that, and the next thing, so that there were actually way more people who were exposed. We know for sure the delivery guy. We know for sure the Cayman Airways employee who came into an isolated area should have been included in the quarantine. And when you're doing your contact tracing and you're trying to determine who is going to be subjected to being quarantined, if you're saying that these 4 people are now potentially at risk, whether it's medium risk, low risk, whatever, and you're going to put them in quarantine and isolation initially, anyone who comes in contact with them during the isolation part, don't they automatically fall into the same category? So I'm confused by that. I must tell you that that doesn't make any sense. So the couple then got their negative test results, I guess later on that afternoon. They went up and they did their checks. So let me show you, interestingly enough, someone sent us the flight path. Aren't these flights, what are they called? The flight radars. Aren't they the most amazing little things? They tell you everything. So this was the plane. It's a little, I don't know exactly what this is. Is that the Baron? Is that the name of the plane? So they were up at 336 feet, doing 133 knots. And you can see the path that they took. So I think they were just, again, kind of circling around in our airspace, obviously just making some checks. So they were able to complete their checks that day because eventually someone produced the negative test results. There were some rumors afoot that the HSA or travel time, whoever's responsible for giving them the results, I think it'd be travel time, HSA through travel time, didn't take down their phone number. So they claimed that they didn't have a contact number for them. You come into this island and you're under special conditions that have been pre-approved, yada, yada, yada. How can you not have somebody's phone number? Even if you don't have the phone number, surely you know where they're staying. Can you not call the hotel facility? Anyway. The following day, so this would have been Thursday of last week, Wednesday, the 23rd. They then go to the BRAC because they have to do some testing there too. And once again, they don't follow what they were supposed to in the BRAC, so the BRAC turns them back. Aunt Lottie's pearls of wisdom. Your head must be hard as a rock. When you head hard. Like, really? So you made that mistake on the 22nd. You didn't have your PCR test. You did all that. Made people go through drama. 5 people now in quarantine because of your slackness. You would think when you're going to the BRAC the following day, you now know, oh yes, let me have my PCR test results in my hand. Let me make sure I'm organized. But that's not what happened. They went to the BRAC and the BRACers are like, go back where you came from. And of course, we know the great painstaking steps that we have taken in order to try to protect Cayman BRAC and the sister islands in particular. So then they got themselves reorganized and went back to the brack again. It's like, something wrong with you people. For inspectors, for professional inspectors, you seem to be missing a little bit of, this is how I handle my business professionally. I travel with certain documents. I have my PCR tests. I do this, I do that. This is what's required. This is how I got permission to even come here. And this is what concerns me about us edging closer to reopening our borders, because one thing that we know is that people coming into your country, they don't care. Okay? So whatever reason they're coming, to work, to vacation, to get on a cruise ship, they don't care about giving your people COVID. They oftentimes don't care about following your rules and regulations. That's why you have to have enforcement. You have to make sure that when you set procedures in place, that they are followed to the T. You cannot trust and rely on other people to do the right thing, unfortunately. And I think that time has proven, instances time and time again, that human beings just screw up every opportunity they get, especially when they want something badly. So they're like, oh, I want a vacation to the Cayman Islands. Here they come. They're going to make up COVID results. They're going to make up vaccine results. And this is why, even as we edge closer to reopening, right now with the 5-day quarantine, which goes into effect tomorrow, July the 1st, you will only qualify for that if you're coming from the UK or you've been vaccinated in the Cayman Islands. And the reason for that is a lot of these countries have no unified or verifiable way of indicating if that is like a legit vaccine certificate. So our friends in America, soon they're going to be talking about how they want to take a vacation. They better be talking to President Biden and his administration about getting a system in place. I don't know who's going to run it, if it's the CDC or whoever, but they need a countrywide system that can be trusted, where the respective agencies and physician's office and whoever that are uploading these vaccine certificates, it can actually be verified. Because if you don't think physician's office will lie to you, go and check and see what they do with a lot of the Medicaid scams. Big time doctors ruining their reputation over a few dollars. So, some rich person comes in and they're like, oh, I'm an anti-vaxxer, but I still want to go to the Cayman Islands. Just give me a fake certificate. Don't think it couldn't happen. So we need a verifiable means, and that's not happening right now in the US. And that is why we can't really put the US on like a safe list at this particular time. You've still got to quarantine for the 10 or 14 days or whatever. So 5 people, all locals, go into quarantine. This couple does their flights, baffle it up a little bit, and then they're permitted to leave the jurisdiction. Now, when they were taken into quarantine, they were taken straight to quarantine. You can imagine the shock, right? Here I am going to work. I got maybe children at home, a husband, my dog, my cat, whatever. When I left that morning, I wasn't planning on going to the Holiday Inn to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. Do you know how stressful it is to throw something on a person at the last minute? Some people don't really take well to listen, there's some people who need their entire life scheduled and planned out, and they have to really think about things before they commit. And, that's how some people are, mentally. And so for you to make a last minute change, even on a lunch date, for some people are like, oh, no, I can't accommodate that. Are you crazy? So imagine telling someone that, oh, you're not going home tonight. You're going to quarantine at the Holiday Inn. Come with us right now. What? I was supposed to pick up my kid from school. I was supposed to do this. I'm supposed to. Now your life has been thrown in tipsy-turvy. And you have to be calling on a network of friends or family. Hopefully you got some, because it's times like this when you need somebody. What if you were a single parent? and there's nobody at home to go pick up your daughter or to stay with your daughter, and you hadn't made those plans? What if it's like a toddler, a young child that isn't used to being with other people? What if you have a dog at home that you didn't make any arrangements for? And it's not like, listen, I'm fortunate because my husband has this little, we can open the door from anywhere. So even if something were to happen, I needed to let somebody in my house, emergency, I could do that. A lot of people still have a traditional key. So now you have to come and get my key. I'm supposed to be in quarantine. How's this going to work? You need clothes. You have no toiletries. For 14 days, you want me to go in lockdown? What am I going to be wearing? Because this wasn't a quarantine that was planned. So can I go to my house? Can I pick up clothing? Is someone going to bring me clothes? It's just a massive, like, it can be very stressful for people. And this is emotional stress. The last thing most of our people need right now. Anyway, honey child, this is exactly what happened. So 4 of the 5 people went into the Holiday Inn. 1 person was permitted to quarantine at home because that individual lives at home. Nobody else is there. These individuals have said that they've not really been contacted by anyone. There's a lot of confusion, even from the travel time, about when they were finally contacted, what day this actually happened. So they were actually telling them that their 14 days started on the 25th, when in fact it started on the 22nd. That's an additional 3 days. And their records did not match what had actually transpired. And it was like, why don't you know what day I was actually taken into quarantine? That is also a concern. How does that happen? How does travel time records not match up with what actually happened in terms of when you entered quarantine? So Patricia wants to know why 14 days, no vaccine. Well, actually, that's the same question that some of these people are asking, because they are vaccinated. At least some of them are vaccinated. And what I think, after speaking to someone briefly yesterday, has been determined is that because this couple themselves, the inspectors, because they would not have been subjected to the 14 days, even though they had a negative PCR test. But again, that's a negative PCR test at arrival at the airport. So because they didn't go through the traditional quarantine, the chief medical officer isn't going to accept that there's not a possibility that at day 10 or day 14 that their test results might be different. And that is why the strict conditions had been placed on them of this is how you're going to work. So because the infringing parties didn't go into quarantine and we're not 99.9% positive that they're actually negative, that heightens the risk of anyone else who came in contact with them. So even though those people are actually vaccinated, because of how they came in contact with someone who came in, who probably is not vaccinated, I'm sure they're coming from the US, but we're not taking that into consideration right now anyway, right? So we wouldn't have requested a vaccination record from them or anything of the sort. So because of their possible status, everybody else now is impacted by that. So they are treated as higher risk. And so therefore they have to go in for 14 days. What a mess. What a mess. Anyway, that's where we're at, folks. Lots of questions really about how this transpired and what went on. So there's questions about potential lack of communication within the airport personnel itself. Questions such as why the travel time have incorrect information. Again, people are saying that they need to do a better job of communicating with people. Now, you would think that if someone went in to a situation like this, okay, where it wasn't planned and they were, put into quarantine at the last minute, travel time would understand the mental health risk of these individuals. And they would be like, you know what? We need to really check on these people every single day because they're going to be upset that, this wasn't them traveling and coming back and expecting that this was going to happen. So let's make sure that we're checking on them, making sure they're okay. You've got everything you need. Like, you should be talking to them once a day just to make sure. But that isn't happening. So there's also a question of how effective. I know travel time is overworked. Believe me, that I'm sure of. How effective their communication is with the persons. Again, the confusion about what day they actually went in versus when they didn't go in. The navigation services department, they were not forced into quarantine despite, again, allegedly being in contact with these people. Direct contact with the inspectors. The Cayman Airways employee was not. I'm not saying, listen, I understand that these people are like, Sandy, don't be putting us in the mix because we don't want to go into quarantine. But the question is, how effective is this idea of quarantining people who may have been in contact with high-risk individuals when you only quarantine 5, but yet there's probably another 5 or more out there that had the same level of contact? What sense does that make? So let's talk about vaccinations a little bit. So Julie says, but hold on, what about those private jets that come in the mornings and leave around midday? My friend says that they're ghost planes running by autopilot on a test trial. I don't know anything about that. I don't think, Julie, and again, this is just my own personal knowledge, but I don't think a plane is permitted to be in airspace without an actual human being in it. Even if you can flip an autopilot switch, you need to be in there because things can happen and you need an actual person in that plane that's qualified. So someone on WhatsApp said, moreover, the incident with CIAA just shows the type of people that Cayman lets in. Well, this is what I say about people, right? Always assume that you can't trust people. I know this sounds horrific, but when it comes to something like this, where it could literally be a matter of life or death, locking people down in quarantine, whatever, make the assumption, have the checks and balances in place on the assumption that people are not going to do what they need to do. Just assume that. And then if you make that assumption, that means that all of the checks and balances that you have in place make sense. And you have those protocols there for a reason. Someone slipping through the cracks is less likely to happen. Now, we're here to live with COVID. We keep saying that, and that is without a doubt the situation. Listen to this breaking news situation as a lot of people are getting ready for summer camp in the US. School's now out. Parents are desperate everywhere. Last year, they couldn't send a lot of kids to camp. So listen, they're like, this year, you need to get out of here. Get to camp, have some fun, get outdoors. Well, 80 teens and staffers at an Illinois summer camp have now tested positive for COVID. So more than 80 teens and campers, adult staffers. And it has impacted people across 3 states. Here, talk about slackness. The Crossing Camp in Schuyler County, I think that's how that's pronounced, held in mid-June, did not check vaccination status. My God. For campers or staffers. And masks were not required indoors at the camp. This is what the Illinois Department of Public Health has said in a press release. So far, Crossing Camp has not responded to any emails or calls or Facebook messages from media, because this is slackness at a different level. So all campers and staff were eligible for vaccination. All IDPH is aware of IDPH is the Illinois Department of Public Health, is aware of only a handful of campers and staff receiving the vaccine. One unvaccinated young adult who tested positive after attending the camp was hospitalized. In Illinois, they only have 46.1% of their population that is fully vaccinated. They are becoming officials across the country are becoming alarmed by the reluctance of young adults to get vaccinated, especially as the more transmissible Delta variant is spreading more widely. Goes on to say that the perceived risk to children may seem small, but even a mild case of COVID-19 can cause long-term health issues. Now, I'm going to talk about something here in a second because I'm very disappointed. And some of our local, I don't know what they consider themselves, putting out propaganda and misinformation in the public that has now muddled the waters and confused people and people who already had concerns. When you put together an effective propaganda campaign, you make it even worse. And that's happening in Cayman. Additionally, infected youth may not experience severe illness, but they can still spread the virus to others, including those who are too young to be vaccinated, or those who don't build the strong expected immune response to the vaccine. Here, in case you guys forgot how COVID is transmitted. Remember the story that we did in the height of the COVID thing? It was called, I think, 3 degrees of separation or something. And it was a fictional account of how a residence in Georgetown got locked down. But we showed you how quickly this person having a relationship outside the marriage, now that person's exposed, and then that neighborhood. It is very easy to transmit something like COVID. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take intent. So at least 2 individuals from the camp also attended a nearby conference, which resulted in 11 additional positive cases. The week-long camp ran from June the 13th through 17th and was designed from 8th graders through graduating seniors. An upcoming camp created for 4th and 5th graders has now been postponed to August due to the outbreak. So that's on their website. What a hot mess. Mm-mm-mm. It's nothing to joke about. Let me assure you of that. So yesterday, a video came to my attention. Of someone locally having created, and I don't know what makes them an expert, a video where they claim that what they've done is they've taken bits and pieces of video footage from all over the world, all unverified, mind you, questioning whether or not you should get the vaccine from networks like OAN, which we know is I don't even remember if it's left wing or right wing, but whatever wing Trump is on, because it's one of those news outlets that basically anything Trump said went, and they believe in a lot of propaganda and whatever. So these are the same people who claim that COVID didn't even exist. And I guess when that was no longer a viable argument, now they're telling you, oh, don't get vaccinated. It's like, if you can argue that COVID doesn't even exist and you don't want us to believe that, when you start then attacking the vaccine, I of course I'm going to look at you like you don't have no sense, because there's nothing that you say that's based in fact or that is truthful. So why should the good people of the Cayman Islands be putting any faith in your reporting? So a Caymanian has now taken bits and pieces of newscasts like that, had some really good editing done, and had it put together where it is now questioning the safety of the vaccine and essentially telling people that they should not get the vaccine. To say that I'm disappointed would be an understatement. You can have an opinion. I'm not saying that you have to share or we have to share the same opinion. So you can have an opinion about this vaccine if you wish. But I think when you are in a certain space where you have the potential to even influence one individual, and I'm not saying that this person has a tremendous reach, but even if it's just one person, because there are people who are looking to grasp anything at all as a reason why they don't want to believe that this vaccine is safe. So, for example, this past week, the FDA put a warning on the labels of the COVID vaccine about the let me tell you. The myocarditis connection, right? So, as we have said before, this is obviously a bit of an ongoing situation. At this point, this myocarditis, which is a rare heart inflammation that some people, especially younger people, are getting after they've been vaccinated, seems to be extremely rare. So far they have just a little over 300 verified cases of myocarditis amongst 12 to 29-year-olds in the US after they have received the mRNA vaccine. That's out of more than 140 million people who have been fully vaccinated with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. Any mathematicians watching this morning, you do the math. 140 million. I don't know the exact number. Say it's 325, 350 cases. What percentage is that? It's a very small percentage. So most of the myocarditis patients have experienced some symptoms a few days after the second shot. They have had 309 that were hospitalized. 218 of them recovered from their symptoms. As of last week, 9 patients were still hospitalized, and 2 of them were in the ICU. This is according to the Center for Disease Control. So, when people are like, oh, they're hiding information about this code, I'm like, are you reading? The CDC is monitoring, they're collecting statistical information, they're reporting stuff. They're giving you all these numbers. This isn't exactly the kind of thing that you can hide. First of all, in this day and age, where you're in Australia and you fart, people here in Cayman know about it by the afternoon. It is becoming more and more difficult to hide anything in the era that we live in. Everybody's recording stuff. People are, whistleblowers are everywhere, giving out information. So people who really believe that governments are able to, unless you live, and even in China, information will leak out. But if you live in some place like China or North Korea with, what's his name? Kim Jong-wing, whatever his name is, I could see how some arguments about government controlling information could happen because they lock down all the internet, honey. You don't even get internet out. They just lock it down. They don't give you access to Google. You don't have anything. So in countries like that, in countries where you have the free flow of information, you can go online at any given moment in the Cayman Islands and read whatever the heck you want to read. I would caution people against this. Well, governments have to be hiding something because it's kind of near impossible for governments to be hiding. What would they be hiding? Statistical information is readily available at your fingertips. Some people think, oh, more people have been dying in Cayman since COVID. Well, we're going to get all those details for you compared to the last 5 years, and we're going to tell you what the cold hard truth numbers say. Our brains have a way of making connections and of creating certain narratives. This is actually a proven fact. The brain and how it works likes to find links. So when there's like a day when it's like, oh, it's the second month of the second day of the second decade of the, it's just another day, folks. Eventually, you will get to these markers as you go through history. But human beings put a lot of weight on finding connections because there's always some relevance in our head. It's just the way that the brain works. There's a whole area of study about why that is, but this is how our brains work. Our memory isn't even as reliable as most of us think. I'm going to start sharing some of these videos because I feel like people think a certain way and they don't understand how their own brain works. And so they make certain assumptions based on, I've got a great memory and I know this. And it's like, if you really know how the brain works and how people take in information, how people process information, and it has nothing to do with you as an individual, it's just how it works. Your brain is an organ. Then you're less likely to engage in certain types of thought processes and try to convince other people of those. And it is very difficult. I was having a conversation with a physician a couple of days ago. And I said, why aren't the local physicians going out there and having more of a conversation? Oh, thank you, Natasha. Australia going into lockdown again? Lord Jesus. I said, why are physicians not going out there more and saying, stop all the foolish rhetoric? And you know what the physician said to me? The physician said, Sandy, honestly, I am so sick and tired of the ridiculousness of the conversations that I have to listen to. I need to earn a living. I'm super busy. And for me to sit down and try to convince someone who has no iota what they're talking about, because now everybody wants to be a doctor. Everybody is an expert. Everybody is a COVID expert. And they say things and put things out there that don't even make any sense. This physician was like, I don't have the time, the energy, or the inclination to even want to talk to people about this stupidity, straight up. And I get it. I understand it. It takes a lot of patience to engage in misinformation and to try to correct it. But it is the responsibility, and I don't say that it's necessarily the responsibility of private physicians, but I think that that's what the chief medical officer gets paid to do handsomely. That's what all of the experts that are part of public health and so on get paid to do. But I also get that they are very busy trying to keep us all safe and alive. But they need to continue to have these conversations because there are too many people who are engaging in misinformation. So despite the fact that there are a small percentage of people who are being exposed to this myocarditis, the experts meaning people who are cardiovascular experts, so they know the heart more than anything else. This is what Howard Julian of Penn Medicine, he's a cardiologist and assistant professor of cardiovascular medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, had to say. He said, and again, I'm leaving it up to the experts. I'm not a cardiologist, folks. I'm just here to tell you what he said. He said, I think it's important to be aware of risk, but also to weigh risk in an informed fashion. He goes on to say that these cases must be considered in context. Here's a quote. The potential harms, not just the dreaded harm of death, but also the long-haul consequences of COVID-19 in terms of long-standing, lingering pulmonary and neurological issues that many long haulers have experienced should be weighed against a very small, non-zero, but very small, minuscule risk of myocarditis. Now, let's break that down before we go any further, okay? Listen to what the man says, folks. Listen to the terminology that is used. He says, consider the risk and keep it in context. The potential harms, not just of death of COVID, but the long haul, which we've talked about, lingering pulmonary and neurological issues, okay, should be weighed against, listen to all the words he combined. Very small. He admits that it's not zero. So we're not saying that no one will be able to take the vaccine and not have this particular issue, this myocarditis. So this isn't a situation where anybody's trying to hide it. They're admitting that some people have had it, but the number is very small. Keep it in context. He goes on to use the word minuscule risk. Then he tries to put it in context for the average person. He says, listen, the risk of death from a car accident or opioid overdose are far greater than the risk of myocarditis. Stop the press. You're more likely to die in a car accident. Are you getting in your car and driving right now? Tell me something. Do you understand what the physician just said? He tried to quantify the risk. He tried to put it in context of things you do every single day. We all get behind the wheels of a car and you're driving every day. You're more likely to die behind the wheel of that car than have the COVID shot and be one of 300 people out of over 140 million in the US who have gotten this heart inflammation. He goes on to say, and I think that it's important to have a balanced conversation about relative risk of things that we encounter in everyday life and that are ever-present dangers, along with the risk of an exceedingly rare complication of vaccination that results in widespread recovery. So yes, the Food and Drug Administration on Saturday revised the Pfizer and Moderna guidelines that now include a warning against myocarditis and something else called pericarditis. We're gonna look that one up, but they sound like they're very much related. Why do I think itis means inflammation? Remember I told you guys that I took this course in university called Greek and Latin root words? It's helpful when you see a word and you have no clue what it is. Because I've just looked at the other word, myocarditis, and it ends in arditis, I now think to myself, ooh, the term arditis probably means inflammation. So, sure enough, pericarditis is inflammation of the pericardium or sac-like structure with two thin layers of tissue that surround the heart to hold it in place and help it work. All right. So the Food and Drug Administration is keeping notes on things. CDC Advisory Committee is watching things. They have an advisory committee in immunization practices. So they had an update on Wednesday at their meeting. One of the reasons why they put this information on the vaccine is so that they can then warn you that if you go into a situation where you've had the vaccine and you experience anything like chest pain, shortness of breath, fast beating, fluttering, pounding heart after the vaccination, then you should take those very, very serious, which I would hope you take those seriously anyway, even if you don't have a vaccine, folks. If you're having chest pain, shortness of breath, palpitations, fluttering, you should probably get to the hospital or call a doctor ASAP. So apparently myocarditis and inflammation of the heart muscle is typically more common in teens and younger men, I guess, in any event. And you believe it or not, you can get it without having had a vaccine. So you get it traditionally because of viruses such as hepatitis C, HIV, and even influenza. I wonder what the instance of getting it from those things are compared to the instance of getting it from the vaccine. Probably higher, but nobody knows that, you see, because people get sick and you have influenza and you die and you whatever. People are not saying, oh, by the way, did you know that sometimes when you have influenza A or hepatitis C or HIV that you can get this myocarditis? Y'all weren't having those conversations, but I know you're trying to be all up in the medical field now with the COVID vaccine. And that's fine. Try to educate yourselves, but try to get correct information. So heart inflammation can also be caused by parasites, fungal, bacterial agents, drugs, prescription medication, immunological syndromes, now listen to this. Again, educate yourselves and put it in context. So symptoms can include chest pains, pressure or discomfort, shortness of breath, and palpitations. Traditional myocarditis can be treated with supportive care, such as oxygen or fluids, anti-inflammatory medications, or in severe cases, with mechanical support or a heart transplant. Now pay attention, y'all listening? This is the key. Unlike the incidents related to the vaccine, traditional myocarditis is usually more severe. Y'all listening to me? Anti-vaxxers, did you hear what was just said? If you get it in the normal way, not because you've taken the vaccine, it tends to be more severe. But I don't see y'all running out there talking about, well, make sure you don't get hepatitis C, HIV, or influenza. Y'all need to be having those arguments too. So there are viruses that cause myocarditis. I wonder if the COVID one actually causes it, but we'll get into that, perhaps do a bit more research. It can cause severe acute disease that can lead to death and ICU admission. So that's not this, says Paul Offit, who's director of the Vaccine Education Center. Maybe we need to have him on the program, because we need some local people on the program talking about these things and breaking it down. Now, I know the good premier has said y'all need to go talk to your physicians, but as I've said to others, poor Premier Panton, he's hopeful for his people, but he don't know his people like I know his people, because y'all not going to know experts. You're not going to go and sit down with a medical physician, talk to nobody. You're going to watch all this propaganda online, and you're going to engage in this rhetoric on your own. So you're not going to sit down and talk to a qualified vaccine education center expert. And that is why it is incumbent on people, I guess, such as myself, to try to put correct information out there. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. If you come to me with something, you need to come to me with facts, because that's what I want to hear. I want supportive information, facts, and then I go out there and I try to read and learn for myself. So I have people on occasion who send me these videos. And someone sent one the other day. This is not the Keymanen video that I'm talking about now. I'm going to talk about that one in a second. Someone sent me one the other day which said something about, oh God, I'm trying to remember what the heck that one was. Oh, I get so many some days. And you know what? I just go and look up the link that disproves it, send them that, and just be like, a lot of times I don't even respond. I just send them the link and be like, read and educate your damn self, okay? Stop talking foolishness to me, because I ain't got a time for it. I'm a busy person. So they said something about, oh yeah, if you get vaccinated, you shouldn't travel, or some foolishness. Again, and just because someone has put it out there doesn't mean that it's true. So there was some, I think, OSN video or whatever that network is, that claims that, oh, if you get vaccinated, you're banned from traveling or getting in an airplane because it'll kill you, or some ridiculous thing. I just did Google. Here's all the articles that have said that that is so fake news. Stop sharing stuff that is, it should be obvious that it's fake news, but if it isn't obvious, look it up. Stop resharing misinformation. And I like when people, I don't like it, but I'm being facetious here. I like when people share misinformation, then they're like, well, I don't know if this is true, you know, but check it just in case. Really? If you don't know if it's true, why are you sending it around? Why on earth are you confusing people even more? Good morning, CE Banks. Hi, Nancy. Nancy says some people believe in fairy tales too. Louise, is joining us from Sydney, saying that she's in lockdown right now and it's scary. Darlene says lack of knowledge is why we perish. The irony of it, Miss Darlene, is at no other time in history have we had access to so much information. But yet, I swear, and I know statistically this is actually correct as well, our people, and when I say our people, I don't mean Caymanians, I mean the human race, is actually getting dumber by the minute. We have ready access to so much information. Maybe people are just becoming overwhelmed. I don't know what's happening. But the likelihood of people engaging in misinformation and propaganda and believing all these alternative facts seems to be on the increase. And that was, in my mind, one of the biggest dangers of a president who stood for all of those crazy things. He awoke the monster in all of us. Well, not me, but in a lot of us, a lot of you all, that want to believe some of the most ridiculous things in the world. I had a physician say to me, Sandy, this drug that he was peddling, oh God, what was it called again? That he claims cure COVID and everybody should take it and whatever. And the medical advice was, don't take this drug. Help me remember what it was. Let me read some of your comments while I try to remember what that was. Kathy says, yesterday, a family of 3, which is Caymanian, could not find $540 to pay to get their vaccine done at the airport because they just paid $240 on Monday for the test to arrive at the airport and to be told that their vaccine was not good. I left the family sitting outside of the vaccine office crying that they could not travel to come home this is so sad. Kathy, I'm a little bit confused by this because had they been paying attention to what was going on, number one, getting a vaccine done at the airport, and I guess in the US, they're charging people. We're taking it for granted that we have a free vaccine here, but people do not recognize that all over the world, there are people who are having to pay for it. Taking the vaccine at the airport, if they were actually planning on coming to Cayman, so I don't know if they just went to the airport because that was the closest location to them, but they do understand that that wouldn't have helped them if they were traveling anytime soon, right? So in any event, no matter where you're at, your vaccine should have been completed within 2 weeks for you to be able to come. So I'm a little bit confused by that. So help me figure out what they were doing. Are you saying that they were at the airport trying to get the vaccine to then come to Cayman right away? So they paid $240 for the COVID test. Yep. And I know they're charging people for tests. $540 for the vaccine. That's a lot of money, but make sure they understand 2 things. Number one, it's not going to shorten their stay. So it might help them in terms of saving their life. But if their desire to take it was to shorten their stay in Cayman under quarantine, that isn't going to happen because they are coming from the US. But despite that, clarify for me the part about them being at the airport trying to get it done. This is the sort of thing that you need to plan way in advance of traveling, even if you're in the UK. Don't think you could get vaccinated the day before or get your second shot the day before and come on the BA flight the day after. That's not how it works. Because remember, it takes time for your body to build up the immunity. That's why one of the reasons that some people are still testing positive, even though they've been vaccinated, because there's that window that you don't have the full protection yet. Irvelyn says, someone sent the video to me because they're anti-vax and I deleted it and told them to don't send any fake news to my phone. So I'm debating, Irvelyn, tell me what you think. Should I address this video directly? Because I know it has been put out there in circulation. It has been sent to a lot of people here in the Cayman Islands. And I fear that there are people who are going to believe this video. So clipping and putting videos together to create a certain narrative is problematic, especially when that narrative is just false. Orville says, I wouldn't subject myself to any risk. Well, Orville, then that must mean that you don't get up in the morning. Because getting up in the morning means you're subjecting yourself to risk. Getting behind the wheel of your car, you're subjecting yourself to risk. If you have ever flown on a plane, you are subjecting yourself to risk. If you've ever eaten pork, you subjected yourself to risk. If you've ever eaten anything, there's a risk of choking. Have you ever ate processed meat? You know what the risk is associated with eating processed meat and things like colon cancer? I bet you now stop eating pork or processed meat because of it. There's a risk to everything in life that you do, my friend. Have you gotten married, Orville? Do you have a wife? There's probably a risk of her killing you too. I mean, risk. You take Tylenol. Yes. Thank you, Nancy. Do you know the risk of taking painkillers and heart disease, heart attacks? All right, let me tell you. Since you talk about risk, I'm hoping that you do not take any non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, because if you do, you are increasing your risk of a heart attack and a stroke. Simple. This is non-debatable. NSAIDs, that's a short term for it. Medications commonly used to treat pain and inflammation can increase the risk of a heart attack, stroke, and high blood pressure, whether you already have heart disease or not. Well, we're talking about over-the-counter medication, including ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin IB, and others. Aleve, Anaprox DS, some of these names are Voltaren, Celebrex. So you've ever taken any of those? Well, you've just increased your risk of an actual heart attack, death, stroke. And I'm not talking about taking it for months on end. They recommend taking the smallest dose possible to limit the risk of heart attack or stroke. It says that they're probably safe, listen to the terms used, to take once in a while, but be aware of the serious side effects that can occur as early as the first weeks of continuously using them. So they're used for everything, muscle and joint pain, other therapies. We take painkillers all the time. All right. You've ever taken an aspirin before? Check out the risk of ulcers and stomach bleeds. Miss Wanda says, how will cruise lines coming out of Florida be handled? Well, that's the big question. That's why our reopening plan can't be one of throwing open the borders, especially to cruises. They will, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, they will be the very last of the tourism industry to be let back in. And you know why we reopening our borders because we need tourism. People need to get back to work to be able to support their families. And so that government doesn't go into further deficit than where it's headed, because we will have a deficit. Al Ebank says the irony of things, everybody is an expert. The human will believe, depending on who's saying it, picking sense from nonsense is a thin line. And it really, really is. I am disappointed in the video, the local video that I see in circulation. Like I said, I don't know if I waste my time addressing it or not. You guys tell me what you think. Are you guys going to believe it? Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like I said to someone yesterday, who's watching this person or who's even believing it. But the fact that several people have now sent it to me, I know that it's in wider circulation than it should be. And so that's concerning. So I don't know. What do y'all think? It's on their website. Let me see how many on their Facebook page. Let me see how many people viewed it on Facebook. Video views. 157 people. That's hardly a drop, but I know it's been circulating on social media as well, like on WhatsApp. It probably hasn't reached enough people to really make an impact, but maybe it has convinced even one person. I don't know. Flashpoint says it's difficult to have a logical discussion with people that think Bill Gates is trying to use the vaccine to control them. We need dealing with people with mental issues. Well, those people don't necessarily have mental issues just because they believe that. They just seem to want to buy into a lot of propaganda and a lot of fake news. And I don't know what has changed with the psyche. And of course, what happens in America quickly rubs off on us. So we always say when they sneeze, we're the ones who catch a cold. So, the rhetoric in the US, because of Trump being president, because of him advocating these things, and if you were a Trump supporter, hydrochloroquine, thank you. Whatever Trump said, people just jumped on it and believed it. So yes, I do think that that has helped to kind of put this conversation at a feverish pitch. And if you're not a Trump supporter, then they were like, well, you're wrong because you're not believing the Bill Gates thing and you're not believing this. And yes, this was, this COVID thing. And they pick, listen, like I said, the brain is an amazing organ. They will pick on, so now that there is some good evidence that this virus did potentially escape from a lab in Wuhan, China. So now that only helps to, and again, not concrete, not proven, but you can't tell these conspiracy theories that it's not proven. Just because it's now a line of inquiry, it's already been proven according to them. You see what we told you? Yes, the Chinese made it up, just like Trump said. Well, everybody knew that the Chinese had been studying viruses, and Wuhan has, I think, maybe the world's largest lab for that sort of thing. They're doing a lot of experimental things with viruses. So the possibility that it could have escaped from day one in my mind was like, that's possible. Very possible if the lab technicians and so-called virologists at that location are not being especially safe. But that doesn't mean that they created it, because the coronavirus, SARS, exists in other forms. So it doesn't mean that it was a creation. It doesn't mean that they put it out there on purpose. So they've seen people sit down and have conversations with me where they say governments around the world, all governments, this is like straight out of, like, I saw a movie like this once. What movie was it actually? Where they were trying to control the population and they were like, let's kill off everyone and we can only save a few people. So we introduce a virus. My thing is, that's one of the stupidest theories I've ever heard. Because you cannot control a virus like this. You can't control who it kills. So it's not like people are being injected with the virus and I'm like, okay, I can inject you and you and you because I want to kill you. And I'm going to just inject poor people because we want to get rid of poor people. This virus has killed millions of people. World leaders, rich people, poor people. It doesn't discriminate. And the logic is it was introduced to save governments money. Let me think about that. So the government introduced a virus to kill off populations by the million, to save money, but yet COVID has destroyed world economies and is costing us, the cost is immense to governments. We're not saving no money because we have to lock down borders. The entire airline industry shutting down. And like, I legit look at people when they say this to me. And so that I don't have to go and take a leave for my headache, I start trying to think about something else. Oh, my beautiful Agouti. Oh, I miss him so much. And I just let them babble on in my ear, and I just don't take it in. Because I agree with that doctor. If you try to take all this in and process it, after a while, you're just like, I'm going to punch this person because they're so incredibly stupid. Aliana says some people just love to believe their own BS. Those who scream fake news are ones who love fake news and so-called self-righteous stance. Kathy, Sandy, correction, the COVID test. Oh, so it wasn't the vaccine that they were being charged for? Yeah, so this hydrochloroquine, right? Y'all need to go read up the studies on this, but a physician said to me here, Sandy, the reason why it was stopped in terms of usage, even trying to do a study on it, is because it was causing people to have heart attacks. So we're trying to save you from COVID, but we're going to kill you with an experimental drug that's going to make you have a heart attack? That don't make no sense. So yes, there's a lot of drugs out there, folks. And this is, again, when they talk about, the vaccine being something that's going to kill you. There's so many drugs out there that people take every single day, blood pressure tablets, this and that is doing far more damage to you. But yet I don't see you stopping taking that. I'm just saying. Yes, there's a risk to everything. So Orville says he doesn't eat meat. Oh, good. So you eat salads, and he doesn't take any drugs. You eat a salad, right? Do you know that there's a risk of your salad having that snail parasite doo-doo on it? And that can actually kill you or make you violently ill? Have you not heard about that? That happened right in Jamaica a number of years ago. There was a wedding party that went there, and I think some of the party's members actually died. So you better not eat any lettuce either. I'm just saying, you better not live if you don't accept that there's some risk in life. Aliana says, I get up every day and whistle the Hunger Game tune to myself. Oh my God, that is so funny. Aliano. That is legit funny. I think that is hilarious. And in fact, I think we should play that. Folks, thank you, Miss Donna. Thank you, Orville. Thank you, Damien. Edward is here. Ed, hey, I miss you. How's Ireland? How's life over there? The rest of the world is just shutting down all over the place. Irvin says, can I tell you? It's beyond my mind how people think. Well, we have to accept that those people are now a part of our community. And so in the words of Aliano, let's all play that Hunger Games song right now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Survival. Are you coming to the tree? But Dad may call down for his love to flee. I guess we're all in the survival game here, folks. We're all in the survival game. So Victoria says, late to the show. Well, the show is over now. So let's get some latest figures. How many people have died from COVID worldwide? So we have 3.94 million deaths. Over 600,000 in the US. They remain in the number one spot. Ironic. 398,000 in India. Brazil has over 500,000. France has over 111,000. Russia, they round out the top 5 at 132,000. So, Irvin says, yeah, be careful with your vegetables too, chow. Thank you, Larry. Lack of knowledge, the people shall perish. Well, I feel like listening to propaganda is what's going to make us perish in this day and age. And misinformation. What a mess. All we can do is try little by little to put out accurate information into the realm, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think you got to try to balance things. So you put out some accurate information. And, here's the thing. People are still pushing this. Well, the flu kills people too. So what's the big deal? Well, you need to look at the short space of time that COVID-19 has taken out that many people. Right? And there's so many other implications of the COVID-19 situation that we have to keep a very keen eye on it. But I think the one thing that we must accept that in some form or another, COVID-19 is here to stay. And you've got to make decisions based on, I think, that basic principle. It's here to stay, so you make your choices based on that. So Termnex said 7 million people died of hunger in 2020. Okay. But the last time I checked, hunger wasn't a communicable disease. And it certainly didn't stop people and shut down world economies. I mean, it obviously is an issue for anyone who is in hunger, but is it killing anybody in Cayman? Well, now that we have COVID that has shut down industries and borders, a lot more of us are going to be hungry. And that might kill us. So I guess you could expect the hunger rate to probably go up too because of COVID. Increase in foods and all sorts of products, even to try and buy a little house, build a little something, everything's gone up. The cost of living is skyrocketing in part because of COVID. So again, this is one of the economic fallouts of this situation. So if we want to talk about hunger being a problem, that doesn't get any better when we were dealing with a worldwide pandemic. In fact, that makes it worse. And we have less resources, money and otherwise. People can't travel to Africa to help the poor, hungry people. They don't want to travel to Haiti. Those people are in a worse and more dire situation during pandemics than when they're not, because they can't get the relief and the help even that they need. There might have been, what do we call these missionaries that go out and want to help people? They can't travel nowhere now because they're afraid of catching COVID if they go to Haiti. There's a whole article that their friend, Charles, I forget her name now. Anyway, she covers Haiti news a lot. She writes for the Miami Herald, and she covers the English-speaking Caribbean. And she does a lot of the news on Haiti. And trust me, they've been ravaged by COVID. Folks, stay tuned. It is Wednesday, the end of the month, by the way. So July the 1st starts tomorrow. I wish you guys a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the morning, God's willing. Remember, there's a risk, so I'm going to go get in my car right now. Yesterday, I came that close to having a traffic accident, by the way, speaking of risk. Woo, thank God the car got some good brakes, honey child. Otherwise, I would have rear-ended somebody. And you know, they don't care that people stopped in front of me. It's going to be like, you're the one who hit them. You're at fault. So let's all be careful, but life is full of risk. Live it to the fullest. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.